Now that we understand the basic building blocks of networking, let's talk about what actually happens when information moves across a network, because that is really what networking is all about. Whether you send a message, open a website, stream a video, print a document, or upload a photo, data is traveling from one place to another. From the outside, it feels instant. You click something and it just works. But underneath, there's a real process happening. Data has to be created, prepared, sent, carried, received, and understood. And once you see that process clearly, networking starts to feel much less mysterious. Every trip across a network starts with the sender. That sender might be your phone, your laptop, a tablet, a printer, a smart device, or some other system on the network. Let's say you send a photo from your phone to your laptop. Your phone is the device creating the data. At that moment, the information exists on one device, but it still needs a way to get to the other one. So the first step is simple. One device has something it wants to send. That is where the journey begins. Here's where beginners often imagine data just somehow floats across the network. But that is not really what happens. Before data can travel, it has to be prepared for the trip. The network cannot just take a raw photo, message, or document and throw it onto a cable or into the air. The information has to be packaged in a way the network can move. It also needs identifying information added so that the network knows where it came from and where it's supposed to go. A simple way to think about it is like mailing a package. Before you ship something, you put it in a box, label it, and make sure it is ready to travel. Networking does something very similar with data. Once the data is prepared, it needs direction. The network has to know the destination. Otherwise, the information would have no idea where to go. So, data is given addressing and other helpful details. In beginner terms, you can think of this like a shipping label. The label helps the network know who is sending the data, who should receive it, and how the information should be handled along the way. This is one reason addresses matter so much in networking. They help move information toward the correct device instead of letting it go nowhere or go to the wrong place. So when we say devices communicate across a network, what we really mean is that data is being sent with enough structure and direction to reach the right destination. Once the data is ready and labeled, it moves across the network. That movement happens through media. Sometimes the media is a copper cable, sometimes it's fiber, sometimes it is wireless, like Wi Fi. No matter what type of media is being used, the job is the same: carry the signal from one device to another. So if the sending device creates the message, media is what gives that message a path to travel. This is why we said earlier that devices create and receive the information, but media carries it. Without that path, the message cannot go anywhere. Now, sometimes the data goes straight from one device to another across a small local network, but many times it passes through other devices first. For example, it might go through a wireless router, a switch, or another network device that helps move traffic in the right direction. These devices are part of what helps the network function. They do not usually create the original message. They are not always the final destination. Instead, they help carry the information farther along its path. So data does not always move in one single jump. Sometimes it travels in stages. That is one reason networking can seem complex at first. There may be several steps between the sender and the receiver. Eventually, the information reaches the receiving device. That device recognizes that the data is meant for it. Then it begins processing what it received. If it is a laptop receiving a photo, it displays the photo. If it is a printer receiving a document, it prints the page. If it is a browser receiving website data, it shows the web page. So the receiving side is not just collecting random signals. It is taking the information that arrived, reading it properly, and turning it into something useful. That is the final part of the journey. The message has moved from one device across a network to another device that can use it. Let's put the whole process together in a simple example. You tap a website link on your laptop. Your laptop creates a request for that website. The request gets prepared for travel. It is labeled so the network knows where it needs to go. It travels across your Wi Fi to your router. From there, it may travel farther across other networks until it reaches the destination. Then the response comes back. Your laptop receives that data, processes it, and displays the web page on your screen. From your point of view, you just clicked a link, but underneath, data was created, packaged, directed, sent, received, and processed. That is how networking works in everyday life. This lesson matters because it helps you picture what a network is actually doing. Networking is not magic, it is not random, and it is not just the internet working. It is an organized process where information moves from one device to another using connections, structure, and direction. When you understand that, later topics become easier. Frames and packets make more sense. Addressing makes more sense. Switching and routing makes more sense. Troubleshooting makes more sense because now you can start asking questions like, where did the data start? Was it prepared correctly? Did it have a valid path? Did it reach the correct destination? Was the receiving device able to process it? This is why this lesson is such an important foundation. So let's wrap this up. When data travels across a network, it follows a process. A device creates the data is prepared and labeled for travel, it moves across media. It may pass through other network devices along the way. Then it reaches the destination device where it is received and processed. That is the basic journey of data across a network. In the next lesson, we'll keep building on this foundation as we continue exploring how networking works behind the scenes.